Morning. Paul here, we're down in the National Park and we've come to the last study in the book of Mark, and we're looking at the finale really. We're starting in chapter 14 in Gethsemane. That's why I've chosen this little scene here in the National Park near my home. It's probably a little bit equivalent of the Garden of Gethsemane. From verse 32 in chapter 14. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." He said to them, "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Simon," he said to Peter, "you are asleep. Couldn't you keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." How true is that for most of us? Then verse 41. Returning the third time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough, the hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." And as you know, Judas brings the soldiers to betray Jesus. And now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard. Verse 45. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then the one standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Verse 48. "Am I leading a rebellion," said Jesus, "that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you, teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me, but the scriptures must be fulfilled." Then everyone deserted him and fled. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled naked, leaving his garment behind. Now it's commonly believed that it was talking about Mark himself. Mark was not one of the disciples. He was a follower, and he was an intelligent young man who could speak Latin, and he was used as an interpreter for Peter when Peter was taken to Rome. And here he is actually writing a little bit about himself, the young man who fled naked, leaving his garment behind. Now, verse 55, the chief priests were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any. It's interesting. He was accused of blasphemy, but he could not be put to death in Rome-occupied Jerusalem because the Roman law applied. Blasphemy applied the death penalty under Jewish law, but it was Roman occupied, and so they had to find another charge. But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Verse 62, Jesus said, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his clothes. "Why do we need any more witnesses?" he asked. "You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They all condemned him as worthy of death. Then some began to spit on him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, "Prophesy." And the guards took him and beat him. So, unable to crucify him or kill him under Jewish law because of the Roman occupation, they took him before Pilate. Chapter 15. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders and the teachers of the law made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things, so again Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they're accusing you of." But Jesus still made no reply. So here he is being charged as being a king of the Jews, which was then treason under Roman law to oppose anything of Caesar. So here's Jesus being charged as king of the Jews. And the rest of the story there is that they choose Jesus to be crucified rather than Barabbas, and Barabbas is freed. They mock him, and then they crucify him. Chapter 15, verse 25, "It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, 'King of the Jews.' They crucified 2 rebels with him, one at his right and one at his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, 'So you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself.' And the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves." Verse 33 of chapter 15. "At noon darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon Jesus cried out in a loud voice, 'Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani,' which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing near heard this, they said, "Listen, he's calling Elijah." Someone ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down," he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom, and when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Wow. Surely this man was the Son of God. Here is a Roman soldier, not even a Jew, not even a follower of Jesus, seeing the Son of God die on the cross and recognizing him as God's Son. They buried Jesus in a tomb. Rolled a great big rock in front of it. And then in chapter 16, short chapter, the end of the book of Mark. "When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so they could go and anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, 'Who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb?' But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in white sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. 'Don't be alarmed,' he said. 'You're looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you.' Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. And that's where Mark ends his account of the gospel. The first earliest transcripts had no further conclusion. It sort of left it as unfinished. But then extra verses were added by we don't know who. Verse 9, when Jesus rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had driven 7 demons. She went and told those who had been with him and who were mourning and weeping. When they heard that Jesus was alive and that she had seen him, they did not believe it. Afterward, Jesus appeared in a different form to 2 of them while they were walking in the country. These returned and reported it to the rest, but they did not believe them either. Later, Jesus appeared to the 11 as they were eating. He rebuked them for their lack of faith and their stubborn refusal to believe those who had seen him after he had risen. He said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will accompany those who believe. In my name they will drive out demons, they will speak in new tongues, they will pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison it will not hurt them at all. They will place their hands on sick people and they will get well." After the Lord Jesus had spoken to them, he was taken up into heaven, and he sat at the right hand of God. Then the disciples went out and preached everywhere, and the Lord worked with them and confirmed his word by signs that accompanied it. That's the end of the Gospel of Mark. What a wonderful way to end. The Lord worked with them who preached and confirmed his word by the signs that accompanied it. The Lord is working with us. The Lord is in the Word. The Lord is the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. As we take this Word into our heart, as we make it a part of our life, we are taking God into our heart. We are putting God into our spirit, and he will work with us to achieve wonders and signs. I hope you've enjoyed the study of Mark. Our next book that we're going to study is the book of Luke. You'll see the button on the screen. If you want to follow us, click that button on the screen, and we'll be studying the Gospel of Luke. Been a wonderful journey through Mark. It's very dramatic, it's very descriptive. I recommend you read it all, and as you read it you might like to go to YouTube and look at Max reading it on stage. He reads the whole Bible, the whole book of Mark on stage, and you can see a button on the screen that'll take you to his readings. Very, very worthwhile watching him and also looking at the Word as you read with him. You have a great day. May you stay in the Word, and may the Word stay in you. See you later.